So with the new year upon us and hearts ready to make a commitment, I want to encourage us to make our primary commitment to Christ. We've been talking about making room this Advent in Christmas. More specifically, making room for Christ and Christ's way throughout our lives. How are we doing? You know, there's never a bad time to start or make a commitment to Christ and Christ's way. And because today is the only day that we can do anything with at this time, the second day of this calendar year presents us with the most opportune time to commit to Christ and Christ's way in a new way. How do we do that, you might be thinking? What does that look like? Well, Paul in his letter to the Colossians leaves no stone unturned as he charges them to what it looks like to live faithfully committed to Christ. Paul's words are an excellent place for us to start. If you recall, what Paul says first is he says, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, we are chosen by God. You are chosen by God. I am chosen by God, wanted, adopted, set apart, loved unconditionally. God is committed to us. And through the power of faith, we are committed to God in return. This commitment is our covenant relationship with God, built on the promises of God and our promise in return to seek, to trust, to lean on God. Paul then says, clothe yourselves with compassion, with kindness, with humility, with meekness, and with patience. These 5 virtues are the wardrobe of faithful and committed living. To whom can we share compassion? To whom do we show kindness? Where must we embody humility? How can we own meekness as a strength? And to whom and with what can we be patient? Paul then goes on and says, bear with one another and forgive. As hard as it can be, we are to be patient and forgive one another. Even ourselves, I think. And we are to do so in the spirit of God's patience and God's forgiveness with us. Next, Paul says love. For love is the highest of all the virtues and the most powerful, bringing everything together, everyone together in perfect harmony. Next, Paul says, let the peace of Christ rule and have dominion in our hearts, in your hearts. For peace to rule means for the peace of Christ to be the referee that settles disputes, and not our own self-interests. And let's be boldly honest in that Christ's way of peace is often different than our way of peace. Next, Paul says, and be thankful. An attitude of gratitude for God and all God is and all God does for us is surely in order. And then Paul says, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Teach and admonish one another in all wisdom. You see, we're to follow Christ's teachings when we teach doctrine, when we teach morality. For true wisdom is found only in Christ and in Christ's way. Next, Paul says, sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs to God with grateful hearts. We could add play, psalms, and hymns. Because we are thankful to God, how can we keep from singing? How can we keep from playing? You see, even if we don't think we can sing, even if we don't think we can play, we're to make a joyful noise to the Lord.